It has come to my attention that James Boulware is a possible victim of gang stalking. I can't tell you my sources. Also, that the pharmaceutical companies are the main ones doing this. It's for clinical trials. They have many psychiatrists, psychologists, police officers, military personnel. You know, if you look up Pfizer Global Security, you'll see a similar mix of quote-unquote professionals, a similar dynamic where they have a bunch of people tasked to a job, a task force, if you will, and many of them are off duty, many of them are retired, and some of them were assistant district attorneys. Some of them were ex-FBI, ex-CIA, surveillance specialists, if you will. And basically, they have different devices for administering psychiatric, psychoactive, or psychotropic medications to the targeted individual, the victim. And the targeted individual is usually aware that this is going on, and the police are turning a blind eye to it, thus making the targeted individual want to go to war with the police. At any signs of aggression, they increase the medication, or they try to get the victim to go to a psych ward so they can be drugged on a high dose of medication and try to convince them to keep seeing a psychiatrist. These are the controls. And when they go to the psych ward, they're usually set up to go, and they lose their gun rights for 5 years, in California at least, and I'm pretty sure it's similar in other states. And you actually have to petition the court, which is usually affiliated with the government and the covert operation going on, and so that, you know, if the operation is still continuing, you certainly aren't going to be able to get your gun rights back. And so you see a lot of these attacks happening in Texas. You know, you saw the Draw Muhammad event. You know, they attacked them with assault rifles. And now the Dallas, Texas police station gets shot up and pipe bombs planted in the parking lot. Now, ironically, I'd either uploaded a song about this or I made a song about this while it was happening or before it happened. Kind of eerie, but that's how it is. This is what you want to do when you are a victim of repression and oppression by these unscrupulous, immoral, reprehensible pigs and shrinks. For those of you who don't know, they're called shrinks because they used to literally cut out a piece of your brain to deal with to address mental disorders or behaviors. It goes back to behavioral psychology, Skinner, you know, experimental psychology, and, you know, Descartes and William Wundt and James and Pavlov and all these people who came out with psychiatry. And both Germans coined the term, or given credit for coining the term, psychiatry and psychology. Psychiatry first, and then later on, 1808, Johann Christian Rehl. Psychology first, yes. And so, what you have here is a inordinate influence on society by a minority of rich people, many of them affiliated with the banking industry, certainly affiliated with the pharmaceutical industry, and certainly affiliated with information technology. And they use all of these things to target the individual and to create a sense of detachment and to create the circumstances for this person to try to reach out for help and be called schizophrenic, schizoaffective, suffering from persecutory delusions, what have you. So it's very obvious who benefits from this. Obviously, pharmaceutical industry, they have money in both the person's pockets, if you will. They're getting, they're advancing their clinical trials for government purposes to have secret government contracts at the person's expense. Instead of paying the person to do it, they have found a sneaky, subtle way to do it. They also are getting money from the person going to the psych ward and buying their prescription drugs, usually with their insurance, but there's also deductibles they pay. So they got their hands in both the person's pockets and their hand in the system's pocket as well. So what we see here, I believe, is a case of a person being targeted, and I'm sure they have other grievances against the police as well. And there's a good chance that they will never admit that they were a targeted individual, because nobody will believe them. Unless, of course, they are trying to feed into an insanity defense, which is not the greatest idea. Most people don't understand that state hospitals are just as bad, if not worse, than state prisons. Some of the most violent offenders are in state hospitals. To think that you're going there to make your time easy is absurd. Let's not forget you can also get medication, quote unquote, which is really death pills, in state hospitals. Excuse me, state prisons. So what is the point of pleading insanity these days? Most people don't get that. It's one of those despicable falsehoods that's been propagated. The idea that you can plead insanity and you'll get off for the crime, or you'll somehow have a lighter sentence, or you'll somehow have it easier, which is not the case. These people almost certainly spend the rest of their life in a state hospital, such as Napa State Hospital, which has a large amount of assaults. The assault rate there is comparable to any state prison. You're not safer, you're not happier. The same things go on. You have hateful gang members, you have extortion, you have prisoner assaults, staff assaults, all the same thing, rapes, all things, same things that go on in state prisons happen